Love to talk to you. macatracks@gmail.com. It's 7:45. This is the All Over News. Ain't that the truth? And because I've been away for a couple of weeks and not keeping up with the news, but I'd had emails about this for a couple of weeks, and it was about the census, which is on. And I didn't even, haven't been keeping up with the news. I didn't know that the census is on the 10th of August, another census. And I thought the best bloke to talk to is the ED, the Executive Director of Census. His name's Andrew Henderson. He's on the line. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Maggie.
How you going?
Good, mate. Good.
Gee, that comes around quickly. How long is that since?
Every 5 years, so 2016, and from tomorrow on, 100 days to go to the next one.
Yeah, and I bet it doesn't seem like 5 years to you, especially after the last one, which seemed to some of us a bit of a schmozzle, and I suppose you had a bit of a meltdown there for a while, didn't you?
We had a few problems. We had a series of distributed denial of service attacks on our system and some false negatives. So we decided to pull the system down. Took us 2 days to get it back, 40 hours to get it back up again. But in the end, Australia got behind us, 95% response, 63% online. So we got a good result.
So was it deliberate attacks on the bureaus?
So it's quite common these days, Macca, for government organisations in particular get cyber attacks, so people basically trying to knock your system over. But this time around, new system ground up, and we're working with the Cyber Security Agency to make sure that it's a really good system and that we're ready. And we're hoping for about 75% of people to do it online.
Now, one of the reasons I was sent the email by reading through them is that you're looking for people to, because you need a lot of people. How many people would you employ doing a census, do you reckon?
38,000 people, 20,000 people on the field across Australia, and we're looking for them right now, Macca.
Right.
So I'm sure some of your listeners have been part of the census before, but we'd really like people to come forward. census.abs.gov.au. Good chance to earn some money and get involved in your community, do something good.
I'm just looking at our phone list here this morning, and we've had calls from Timber Creek and Orbost and Dirranbandy and all over the place, and from Sydney and Melbourne and stuff like that. And you need people everywhere, I suppose, don't you?
Every corner, Macca, every single corner of Australia, city, country, urban, rural, remote. In fact, we've also got jobs for remote teams, area teams. They go out to outstations looking for campers, rough campers, basically get out on the road.
So you got to do all that, haven't you? I remember this time, I don't know when, and I was in hospital having an operation. I don't know when it was, and this it's the last person I wanted to see, but this person kept coming into my room and with a form and said, "I'll leave this here. Have you filled this in? Have you filled this in?" And they wouldn't go. It was just only a small operation. It was just a hernia or something like that. But might have been 15 years ago or something. But persistent.
Yeah,
They're persistent, if nothing else. Andrew, you breed that into them, do you?
Yeah. One of my favourite stories, we had a Scandinavian colleague and he was doing a 4-wheel drive trip around Australia. Up in the northwest, bush track, camping rough. He said, sun going down, the census collector pulled up and handed him a form. He said, they're serious about your census in Australia, mate. And I said,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, I was thinking about talking to you and about census, and what do they do? I mean, I suppose they don't need a census, say in China, do they? Because everybody's, cut and drawn and quartered within an inch of their life. I mean, I suppose and then again in India, which seems, that would seem to me to be a nightmare to be trying to do a census, say in India. But I suppose it happens. I don't know.
I can remember Macca talking to a guy from China who did their census over there, and I was saying, "Oh, yeah, it must be a big job." And I said, "How many collectors?" Yeah, and he's like, "About 1 million."
And I suppose
and they do census, and India does a census too.
Yeah, I suppose they do everywhere, and the reason you do it, of course, I suppose, because otherwise you're flying blind, aren't you? And I mean, I expect that the information you get, you're pretty confident that most of it is pretty good, pretty accurate, and thereby you can plan things for the future.
Yeah, mate. So look, every day when you get up, take the kids to childcare, take the kids to school, use a health service, go into a hospital, All of that stuff's underpinned by census, all that community level service stuff, and it's local, and that's why the census is so important, because it's the one time in the 5 years where we actually get a picture of every community, wherever they are, however small, however big. Yeah.
So, times change. We live in a progressive, woke sort of council culture sort of world. Are the questions going to change in your census this year? Is there any new questions? Any ones
We've got,
I
yeah,
just
good.
when you say new questions, because I remember we did a law exam at uni and we got the questions before the exam, which was really handy. So I was just thinking for people who are about to fill it, if you can tell them if there's
We've
a
got a
few tricky ones or.
couple of new questions, Marcus. So we've got one on long-term health conditions, so diabetes, asthma, that sort of stuff. So whilst we've got a good national and state level picture of health, we don't have that kind of community level view. And again, the census is the opportunity to get that community level view. We're also asking a question for the first time about Defence Force service, because it came as a surprise to me, but Vets Affairs tell us that they service about 200,000 veterans and about 100,000 family, but they think there's probably about 600,000 veterans out there, and we don't
Wow.
really know where they are and what services they need. So big gap that we want to try and fill.
Wow, yeah, and especially because lots of people, more and more on Anzac Day, especially, but after that, we talk about that because it's, and when you think about the service that people have given over the years, after the First World War, and blokes came back and they really they weren't given a job. Some were, but token job. They were treated fairly shabbily, really, for the sort of service they did. And I think that attitude to service person has certainly changed. So that'll be very helpful, wouldn't it?
It will be. It will be. Getting them the services they need, and making sure that they're well supported, to really getting up there.
Yeah. Now, people sometimes say to me, Macca, because I'm on air on Sunday morning. They say, "What do you do the rest of the week?" Um, and I say, well, look, there's a fair bit to do, and I travel around and talk to people and edit interviews and read emails and talk to people on the phone and stuff like that. But you only work once every 5 years, Andrew. So what you just
Oh,
swan
well,
tell me about
after,
tell me about
after
your
the
life.
last after the last census I worked on, they sent me down to Tasmania for 3 years to head our agriculture program. So, I went from counting people to counting cattle and sheep and pigs, and but really enjoyed it. It was great living and working down in Tassie for a few years. Great national parks, great country, and but then I worked on agriculture statistics, and they brought me back up here to Victoria, and I was working down in Geelong. We opened a new office there, so always plenty to do between a census, mate.
And you'll be this is on the 10th of August. And can people, a bit like voting, can you vote early and things like that, or can you fill in your census early or even late, if
Well,
necessary?
that's one of the changes we're making this time. So people are telling us, look, we're happy to do it. We just need you to be a bit more flexible. So we're giving people options. They can do it online. They can do it on a tablet. They can get a paper form if they want it. And we're saying to them, look, there's a window. As soon as we've delivered to you what you need to be able to do it, just do it if you're comfortable. The main point, Mac, is we want them to think about the 10th of August. So we want, where you are on the 10th of August is where we need you actually to be counted. So, but if you get to it a few days later, that's okay. But a few days earlier, even better.
Yeah. So, and you enjoy that. So you'd be planning for the next one in 5 years' time, I suppose. Now, wouldn't you? Once.
Already started. Yeah. So it'll be similar. We think the online will be big again, but we usually start about 5.5, 6 years out.
And that was probably the problem last time, wasn't it? Apart from the fact it fell over, but I think some people were a bit stressed that because not everybody's still online. I suppose I don't know do we know what the percentage of people who are online and not connected?
Well, what confuses things now, Mac, is that so many people have mobile devices. So internet access is not just broadband based. It's you can use a tablet or you can use your mobile phone. So, but we think that, pretty good coverage. We'll get about 75% of people responding online, we think. But there'll be still people out there, particularly in the bush, who will be getting a paper form to them.
Good. Andrew, been talking to Andrew Henderson, who's the Executive Director of Census. So, Andrew, if people want to be employed by Census, what do they do now?
census.abs.gov.au, or web search census jobs, and everything they need to know is there. 15 minutes is all it takes, mate.
All right. Andrew, up and about. Good luck, and I'm sure it'll go a lot smoother than it did last year. But again, you have to guard against hackers, I suppose, do you?
Oh yeah, we've taken every possible precaution. As I say, cybersecurity is just something everyone has to plan for these days, and we're on top of it, mate.
Good on you, Andrew. Nice to talk to you.
Thanks, Macca. Cheers.
Bye. So there you go. That's the census story.